I come. Oh, I know. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields. I'll tell you something. I have on a decent set of headphones. It's a completely different world, Kendall. Kendall. At least I call you a dog name. At least I call you a human name. It's look at your girl over there. She looking in the mask. What you call that thing? The comeback.
Yeah, I'm making sure I nothing in my teeth.
No, you were doing your hair. Your teeth is in your hair.
I went from this moment, this right here, to this. I'm looking at this.
Yeah, get it together.
What you say?
Yeah, I said this is weird. I mean, it's almost abnormal. It's bizarre.
It's clearing.
Yeah, but it's almost kind of like disturbing. It's so different.
So this for me?
Yeah, yes, that's for you. That's your headphones.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna have to get used to this. So,
hey,
good
y'all.
evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Ed Fields Live Show with Rogan Smith, and welcome. Kendrick Williams
Kendrick's back from...
Yeah, from where?
I don't want to say where because he might be... Is that a secret?
Tell me, man. He went
from
to...
Vacacion.
Yeah, San Francisco. I'm a little concerned about that. I'm saying it.
Okay, good.
He said he didn't mind. I heard him say he didn't mind.
He said vacation.
What's that? Yeah, that's fine. We have a connection. You ain't got that connection. Okay, so okay. We have testes. So anyway, so the deal is we got a lot to talk about today. Candy's coming up a little later. Our guests are going to be Paco Nunez and Fred Smith. Fred is going to call us from the ports, from Freeport, talk about this thing because there's a lot I want to understand about this thing. This has been a thing, as you know. I wrote something about this several months ago. This parliamentary privilege thing has always disturbed me.
Yeah, I have a problem with it too.
So the issue itself is, I'm not getting wrapped up in that, although we'll talk about that. I want to talk about how something determined way back when they did the Magna Carta should be impacting me now.
Today.
Because when they did the Magna Carta in those days, the king, well, he got to do anything. You talk. Oh, you were talking about the king? Okay, yeah. Come over here. Let me bring you this cutlass. They used to call it sword. We call it cutlass. So I'm just, it's like the bib and the wigs in court. Who decided on that? So, I believe that is always going to be, it was going to be challenged. I was prepared. I was hoping someone would say something about me because I always wanted to challenge it. That's on record. I can tell you that's on record for many, many years. And it's like everything else. It doesn't get challenged until someone's impacted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So because like right now, I'm sure some young person in England or the Bahamas said, "What's with this wig?"
Vig.
And then they challenge it. By the way, I'm going to be talking to you about later on in the week about what's happening with the bank thing. But haven't moved off of that.
Guess what? But I thought about that when I was driving here. I said, but let me
got a little meeting soon, so we're going to talk about that. But we got some other little things to talk about.
Man, your word.
This thing with the Phenums.
The Phenums. The
what's that?
For those
the people don't know. They don't know the Pilps, the Phenums, and the Nus.
No. And the dinners.
Yeah. Well, if they better get it together. Okay.
Or stop creating this crazy language.
Oh, listen. I was reading something on the Facebooks. Shows you can spell anything anyway, and people will know what it is. Have you seen that?
No, that's the one where you put all the words together.
Once the first word and the last, the first letter and the last letter, you can jumble up anyway.
Perfectly. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Kendall is a little confused.
Kendrick. I don't know who it is.
Who's Kendall?
Yeah, who is Kendall?
Kendall. Kendrick. He's my dog.
You don't get no.
So if I can start calling you Kendall, you can know.
You ain't got no dog, but
yeah, I do. You know what my dog was named? Cupid.
I
had a dog named Cupid, a Shih Tzu.
Okay.
It was a Shih Tzu.
To me.
Yeah.
I don't like those little dogs, but.
So you have a big dog?
I have a pot cake.
And you call him Tinkerbell?
Yeah.
He has a complex.
That's a girl.
Yeah, he has a complex. Complex. All right, so no pot cake.
Yes, babe.
Is a Tinkerbell.
Yes, babe. She's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, yeah, you're gonna cry and everything.
Yes,
anyway, so we got a lot of stuff going on. The first thing you said you heard today.
Yeah. The infighting obviously continues in the FNM. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down one bit. And today I was listening, I'm a talk show junkie, so I was tuned into my boy, Carlton Smith, on Let's Talk Live on Guardian Radio. And Darren Cash was the guest on the show. And, he had some things to say about Dr. Minnis's leadership You know, Darren Cash, of course, for those who don't know, he's a former FNM senator and the former chairman of the party. And he accused, and I don't want to misquote him, but he accused Minnis of running a racially charged campaign, noting that there are a lot of whites who are in favor of Loretta Butler Turner.
Yeah, but that's over.
Yeah.
Does he? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Doesn't
he realize that? No, but doesn't he realize that's over now?
The man has a right to
he does,
comment
but,
on it.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, and I don't care about either side, right? This is how they. I assume he continues to be at FNM.
Yes.
I'm
a member in good standing.
Right.
So
I assume Peter Turnquist continues to be an FNM. So I've not heard, I could be wrong, where in the history of parties, the two people who are in the party row on the air.
On the air.
I've not heard that.
On the air.
So they got to be numbskulls.
Yeah, Peter Turnquist called into the show, accusing him of being irresponsible and said, he's just running on rhetoric. But what Mr. Cash was saying is that Minnis is creating this us versus them scenario, just kind of putting people, the haves and the have-nots against each other. And he was saying that wasn't wrong. Obviously Minnis has said that he's going to have some tax-free zones in inner cities.
But let's assume that he was going to, let's say he was doing that prior to the leadership race, which would have been wrong as well, right? But at least you can say in context that's him trying to win his position. What's the deal now? I mean, isn't it kind of a post thing?
But that doesn't, even though, so him trying to win his position doesn't.
No, I didn't justify it.
Okay, let me just say that though, because it doesn't
but I said that.
justify it. It doesn't negate the fact that he can comment on that situation. Because even today, what's his name? Richard Lightbourne has apologized for his comments, and people are still talking about it. So he has a right.
Well, he's finished. We know that.
But Mr. Cash has a right to comment on this.
No, but what I'm saying to you is, as a party person, this is not about what he has a right to do, etc. Everyone has a right to do anything. You can go right and stand in the middle of the road and pee. The thing I'm saying is that as a party of a person, if his objective, and this is what has been wrong with the FNM from the beginning, if their objective is to win the election, it's one thing to have internal battles, but what we've seen over and over again is public pronouncements in the newspapers, public pronouncements on the air, and I've never heard, even maybe just now because you got Trump because he's a nutcase. You don't hear people decrying each other on air post the leader being chosen.
No, people still do that. People still do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't hear the PLP.
It's not helpful for the party, obviously. It's so fractured, and every day you think it's going to get better or they're going to get back together, somebody speaks out and it disproves that. So they got serious problems heading into an election. And I've refrained, as you know, from commenting on it. All these people I know very well, so I disclose that very, very candidly. But there's got to be a point where you go, okay, I've had an opportunity. I withdrew, and that's a deep move. Because Butler Turner?
Miss Butler Turner, that's a deep move because let me tell you, I've not been in the politic front line, but when you get into this stuff, there's a lot of people who are like onward Christian soldiers. They're following you to the cliff. You can't just all of a sudden move to the side and they fall into the cliff, without them. You got to fall on the cliff too.
Especially when you ask people to follow you.
That's what I'm saying.
So
you
got to stick it through to the end.
And I don't know what the how they if they conferred with the people. I don't know how much people you could confer with at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
I would have thought what you would do is say, all right, let's call a quick meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, as with many people to show up as possible.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do.
Outline what you're going to do.
Make sure the last line you say is I'm not withdrawing, because before what you say at the beginning, that getting text to the papers. So you need to make sure you say all of these things are going on, and then you say, and as a result of that, I'm withdrawing. And at the same time, you hit that button to the newspapers.
Let me tell you something. If I were one of those individuals who gave $100,000 towards her campaign, because her and Dr. Minnis had to put that $100,000 up, I would be extremely angry. Extremely angry.
And then after that, I think, I don't know. I saw the headline. I don't know how accurate. And I say how accurate. I mean, I don't know if the headline depicted what was stated. I wasn't there. But, this whole thing about, I'm not for sale and all that. Well, I would assume that you're negotiating at this point. If you've lost, if you've withdrawn.
Yeah.
Okay, which actually gives you some leverage power, because what you're saying to the person who's still left, listen, I'm withdrawing. And, as a result, that I'm giving you a clear way. So, what is it that we can get out of this deal? Like the Bernie Sanders type, sitting around. Okay, listen, I could go further, and Bernie Sanders ended up getting a lot on the platform. He didn't say you're buying me out. He had a victory. He got some victories.
Or maybe he's saying that, but he's saying it behind closed doors. Well, and you're just not aware of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. If what he's saying to the public is, we got 90% of what we want, and that's So I say there was a lot to learn. It's weird. It's weird and coincidental how the Democratic convention and the FNM convention was going on at the same time with much the same type of dynamic.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders had 46% of the delegates in the hall, and you see what they had to do. So anyway, that's it. And then you got. We're gonna skip. Yeah, and you know what? I think it's for the best.
I don't know how they're gonna rebound.
For the average citizen, I think it's best we just wait and see, watch and learn, and go get some. I'll use one of my sponsors' name. We'll get some Kentucky Fried Chicken or some Bahama Grill.
Yeah, Bahama Grill, our new sponsor.
Yeah, man. Go get some Bahama Grill.
Or Kalik.
Get some of them burgers, them fish burger, or the corn burger. They're all made in house fresh dailies. Notice I slide that in there.
I killed Bahama Grill.
You kill it?
Yeah.
So it's dead now?
Dead.
Okay. All right. So anyone who want a Kong burger, too big. It's dead. Okay. Then we skip ahead to the Trump Meister.
Yeah, that's your friend.
No. You introduced him to me. You introduced him to me.
I made the formal introduction.
Kendrick, Kendrick is my man.
Yeah. I know you weren't feeling him from day one. I told you.
That's 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because he's a nut. Okay. Anyone who has a hair like a cartoon.
It does. Yeah, he does.
It's a cartoon here.
I don't.
It's like, do you ever see those
cartoon?
You remember the guy, big boy in the States with the spoon?
Yes, just like that.
It's a big boy.
Yeah, it's a big boy.
My hairstyle.
It's a big boy.
Okay. He's nuts. He's a nutcase. So, and he's got the hands.
And the mouth.
I can't wait to go home in the afternoons now. See, when Obama was running, I used to feel sick to my stomach. I'm going to go home and they're gonna what the guy named Jeremiah Wright or something. They're gonna find something new that they can get on my boy. But every day now I go home.
You say what next?
Oh, let me get the popcorn.
What they got?
There's a popcorn thing.
I hadn't even seen the picture of the wife until you just showed me that.
Well,
I knew she was a model and everything.
No, she's a model, all right. She's in porn. She's in porn.
Is that no? That's like one of those. Models pose like that all the time, man.
Not all the time. Guess what?
I can pull up a photo right now, Naomi Campbell and Tyra Banks.
Yeah, but guess what? They're not running for first lady. Okay?
She ain't running for first lady. He running for president, and that comes along with
the girl name? The girl whose daughter, Malia.
Oh, twerking.
Yeah, they freaking out about that.
With that struggling twerk.
They're freaking out about that. Meanwhile, you got this one in porn. Okay. When Michelle Obama went with the J. Crew, see, I know the name. Yeah, J. Crew sleeveless, like how you have it. Mm-hmm. Big problem.
Yeah, that's not becoming of a first lady.
But this one doing a 69.
She ain't doing no 69.
Okay.
Boy, you could run out now. Yeah, but she is topless.
If it wasn't a 69, at least a 60. Okay.
A 53.
A 53 and a half. Okay. So then you got the talk. He decrying the people. Khan, the people's son who died.
Yeah.
And by the way, did you see the report? Not the reporter, his representative, Catherine something, Pierce or something, Christina Pierce, who says that Obama was responsible for the guy's death. So the reporter said, well, how could he be responsible? It was 12 years ago. Obama's only been president for 8 years.
Well, but he's still responsible.
So Trump says, well, I sacrificed.
What did he sacrifice?
Well, Stephanopoulos asked him, you asked me like you're, interviewing me.
Say what?
Ask me like you're interviewing me. So, did you have a problem? Did you not recognize their sacrifice? Ask me that question.
Did you not recognize the sacrifice?
Well, we've all sacrificed.
Oh yeah, how did you sacrifice, Mr. Trump?
Well, I created thousands of jobs, 10,000 jobs, and I built some buildings. I built buildings.
That's the entrepreneur in you, but how is that a sacrifice?
It's a sacrifice.
How so, sir?
No, it ended there. It's a sacrifice. Okay.
Well, shame on George because he should have been like, how
well,
is
George
that a
was stunned. George couldn't catch himself. Okay. And then George, I think it was George or someone else went on to say, well, so when is the debates happening? Go ahead. Tell me, ask me about debates.
So, Mr. Trump, are you prepared for the debates that are coming up with Hillary Clinton?
Well,
What is your strategy?
there may be a little problem because the debates, the NFL, the debates, the NFL called me. They wrote a letter to me saying there may be a problem
The NFL?
because the debates are the same times. The debates with the games in the NFL. They called me. They wrote me a letter.
And the NFL trumps the debate with Trump.
The NFL immediately released. We didn't
I
write him no
what the hell
letter.
is he talking about?
Write him no letter. There's 1,000 games. There's 4 debates. Okay? And by the way, he's right. The NFL should have written him the letter. Because when he debates Hillary Clinton, no one could be watching nothing else.
He's going to get rolled right out because he was rolled out on the Republican stage when they were just trying to,
No, let me tell you what's going to happen.
dwindle down the
And
numbers.
I can't even say what I want to say.
He'll
But
get rolled out.
someone is training Hillary right now. And
He
the
don't
thing
train
that she's
required.
training is they ain't talking about no issues. He's going to talk about how to push the buttons. Okay?
You don't want him with his finger on the
She training
gonna
her
put-
how to push some buttons
on
on
him. Oh,
And he might
Ain't
lash
hard.
out and say,
Ain't hard, 'cause he's
and
catch
he might
feelings
lash
quick.
out and say some words never heard on TV before.
He's catch. He likes to taunt people, but he's the biggest crybaby
That's what I'm saying.
on the political
Once
arena.
you push the buttons, he will lash out with some words never before heard
And you'll be
in a
tuning in with your
presidential
popcorn, eh?
debate. It's going to go off the chain,
Yeah.
off the charts.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't wait for that. And then finally, what time we got here, Kendrick?
We got like
some time?
13 minutes to 6.
Okay, because
or so.
we have Candy
Yeah.
coming up next, but we have another thing because we got we got to
get
do
some
Candy.
time.
If you wouldn't mind doing the little we're gonna take a break. Go into the
Okay.
tune for me, please. See, there's a couple of things going on here. There are a couple of things going on. First of all,
Lacing.
yeah. See, you lucky I ain't say lacing it. See, a couple of things going on here. A couple of dynamics are going on here. First of all, while we're playing this song now, and by the way, you notice you have it as the bed. You have it as the bed, you know.
I love it.
Okay.
Can't
Now,
you stop the jam?
now, the thing is this, right? It took precisely 24 hours before that song came out after
That hit
Richard
it.
said that thing. Now, here's the
job,
deal.
good man.
Now, what I want you to do is, you see how that song sounded? Imagine that blasting loud on Clifford Park at the PLP convention rally every time.
You just gave them an idea.
No, I give them no idea.
give them an
That's why I
idea.
can say that because I know I got that idea.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
idea
that
was hatched
happened.
as soon as that song come out. Oh yeah,
We
get
playing
that, tape that. Okay.
You sound like the same fellas from the Bridge Tour.
Yeah, they're the
going
Bridge
up.
Tour
okay,
fellas.
Okay.
And see, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
They're super talented.
And I'm saying this, and I know Richard very well, very well. Aside from all the other stuff that's going on in the FNM,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be incumbent that Richard says, I'm not offering for re-election. It's no other thing.
'Cause they could just-
Because he'll just be a continual commercial
A joke.
for the PLP. I don't know how you go to House Assembly because I know them brothers go.
They already did that yesterday. They were railroading him in the
Yeah,
house.
see, because let me see the kind of thing they'll go. Like, they'll be like, listen, we have any coffee? Well, I got the coffee, but who got the carnation cream?
Just making reference to the song.
This is how we go. We in the
we
stoking.
so petty.
Yeah, we petty.
We dead petty.
You see, we low, man. We low.
Mine, but
So
no,
it's a-
no, but
it's a
the
thing.
guy's intro though, knocking on the door.
Yeah.
The girl said she's on a bicycle.
Ooh, you gonna? Let's see.
Here it is.
Hello. Yeah, we come from Operation Tie Up.
Operation Tie Up? What you talking about?
Yeah, we come for your tubes.
Sorry, we don't have no bicycle here.
No, we come for your tubes. You sound like you get more than 2 churn inside there. It's 2 churn a house.
See the move this. Stop. See the thing that gets me? The one line that gets me
Oh, the
is
baby.
to cheer it house.
And the baby, they get a sound effects in the
See,
background.
let
the
me tell
baby
you
crying in
something.
the
Let me tell you
background.
something, Kendrick.
Jesus, baby
I'm
is
addressing
creative.
this to Kendrick now.
Lord, behavior
See,
is creative.
if we were in China or Russia or something like that, it'll seem extremely militaristic. Open up.
Right.
Okay? But your boy, he tried that his operation his operation is to cheer it house. That's the official policy.
Yeah.
You see? He's taking the official policy and then he said, it's to cheer it house. And you can see, you sound like you got more than 2 children in there.
One baby crying, he know that.
Huh?
No, and then
A little bit.
It's one baby cry,
What?
then another baby cry, and then someone say, "Mommy!"
Oh,
You hear the mommy?
I need a part. All I hear was the.
See, all right, go back. We got to hear all the
Okay,
nuance.
just one more time.
Just one
Okay,
more
it's the
time.
last
Yeah,
time.
you can knock or I can knock.
Let me be quiet.
You knock, mate.
We dancing up in here, but
you were in a dancing mood.
we dancing up in here. We had to tie up. 'Cause there's only 2 children in the house.
Yo, we're bouncing to that like that's the next hit.
Yeah.
That's a hit.
Yeah, that's the hit.
Yeah. Like I say, see, you know me, I visualize. All I visualize in is the big giant speaker.
The big part.
Hello.
Yeah.
And
You
a
gonna knock? You
reenactment
gonna
on the
knock?
stage.
You gonna knock?
And he say, I come for your tubes.
I come for your
I even
tubes.
like say,
It's
let
crazy.
me. I
He
come for
has
you.
to-
Let me.
I'm just saying it's incumbent. You know, again, I consider these people my friends, but he knows this. It's incumbent upon him to immediately announce that he would not be seeking re-election.
Re-election.
Yeah, just end it in that way. The commercial stop. Because the commercial's coming, you see. They're writing it up now. You have to stop the brothers in the midst of commercials. Oh, Lord, he quit. We can't do the commercial
They
no
can
more.
still put it on.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't have the same impact.
Yeah, niggas still be funny.
And we say pack. We don't say impact. Candy!
Hi.
Hell yeah.
I'm good. Recovering from
So
the
listen,
long weekend.
how much shirt you got?
What's that? Listen. Hey.
Yeah, she got a couple good
'Cause it's only-
4 children, right?
Listen. I get 2.
Yeah, because there's only 2 house.
But I straight though.
All right. 'Cause
I
you wed.
straight.
I'm married.
I
so you
wed.
ain't in this demo. He ain't looking for you.
All right.
I almost get rounded up in that operation.
You was in that?
He's in the
Operation
operation.
Tie Up?
I was one away.
We should go knock on
Because we ain't got no
door.
bicycle.
We
You
come
know.
by your house,
We
you
ain't
just
come for no
start
bicycle.
knocking.
We ain't come for no bicycle.
I ain't got no
All right.
bicycle around here.
So anyway, how are you?
I'm good.
And what are we talking about?
I'm
this evening?
good. We're talking about more fantasies sold.
Yeah, we got about 4 minutes, and then we're going to
Yes.
go right into the news. So tell us about it.
Okay, so we're talking about expecting one person to be your everything. You know, one of the worst things that this romantic era has taught us is to find, or you're supposed to find this soulmate or this person that is supposed to fulfill every single need that you have, and not only meet them, but meet them flawlessly, and meet them flawlessly without you even communicating it to them. They just supposed to know,
Yeah.
right?
Both of you are supposed to be perfect.
Right. Or no, both of you are supposed to fulfill every single need
dear.
that you have in
The world.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
And I'm here to say that
You're making an
fantasy
announcement?
will never come true.
You're making an announcement?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one fantasy you could just knock off your list. Because no human being will ever be able, no one human being will be able to fulfill everything for you. You can't even do it. We're human beings and we have inherent limitations, even for ourselves.
Well, it goes back to, I told you the Kellogg's Variety Pack thing many a time. We don't
And
have
we're going to get
anything-
back to that
We're going
today.
to get back to that?
Uh-huh.
We don't have anything that we do that we want one of. Because it's like saying, you know what, I like chocolate bars, but I only eat O. Henry. I'm only going to eat O. Henry for the rest of my life. I need O. Henry, which has chocolate, the little caramel log in the middle, the nuts. That's all I'm eating.
Right.
Don't bring no hazelnuts around me. Okay? Walnuts.
Or no, I could have hazelnuts, but I can have hazelnuts when I get to the office, or you know what I mean.
No, but
like
I'm
it's
saying
not.
the expectation, though, is that you
like
can
that one
only
thing.
Oh.
have the nuts, and that's it.
Well, what are some of the expectations that people are expecting inside of a relationship, though? And they're expecting everything from that one partner.
Yeah, you're expecting, them to be your best friend. Yeah, I mean, listen, no.
But I hope that you can get into that at least.
You're expecting, the emotional support, the, amazing sex life. Some people want porn star. Can I say that on the radio?
Well, you did.
Remember the guy said at the forum we went to said it has to be epic? Every
Right, it
time?
has to be epic.
Yeah.
Somebody, you could have these easy, conversations with, or somebody
Financial.
to feed you. Well, that's a little.
I mean, I'm just saying they expect
financial.
you to be financial.
And somebody to challenge you in your career path. I mean, it's a list. It's so many things, right? That and then while they might fulfill some things, they may not be able to fulfill others, and you feel like, okay, well, this ain't the
Well, that's
person for
why-
me because he can't do my VAT taxes.
But do people expect you to be
Yeah.
to present 100% of whatever they need? I don't know that most people feel that way. They may
think-
have a list of things that they want from their partner, and they're happy if they get half of those things.
I believe there are expectations out there, but then there are also feelings of, wow, I can't supply that for you. That feeling of, oh, so you can't have those philosophical conversations with me?
No, you don't.
Well, or no. Why
See,
you
but this
gonna
is
say
why.
that?
This is why. This is
Well,
why
no,
you have.
it's because I need that. I could get that. I want that from somebody else.
I'm using my food analogies, of course.
Your Kellogg's
This is why you have your
tri-pack.
apple pie a la mode. Because sometimes you like your apple pie, sometimes you like your ice cream, and sometimes you like a combo.
Right.
That's where you would have your a la mode. Okay? What you have is you have a relationship, and it's never, there's no a la mode in that. It's a la me.
Oh.
I like that. Write that down.
That's Dale, so don't write that down. When you hear it,
We could write that, but he said it.
he came using that joke, but I love me.
I like
A la
that.
mode, a la
Write
me.
that down, Felix.
A la me. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think people, I do think people look to for others to fulfill a great portion of their needs. Oh, well, I hear the
we hear
music.
the
I don't
music.
want
We
to
gotta
start a
stop.
thought
Yeah,
and then
when we
have to
come back,
finish.
just want to let people know we're going to be talking about the other thing that's been happening in the news later on today. We have Fred Smith and Paco Nunez, who we're going to talk about this thing about parliamentary privilege. We're going to talk about the specifics of that case. Paco's going to be here in about 10 minutes or so. He's, this is a wonderful thing with the internet. He's doing something else, and he's on the way. And we've got Fred. Fred is in Freeport, so we're going to get him on the phone. That's Nunez? That's Nunez. Okay. So tell Nunez, sit in the green room, and we'll. So we're back here with Candy. We've got Paco's in the house. I know that Fred is listening on the stream, so we'll ask him to call in, and you can get him on the phone, Kendrick, when he calls in, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. Rock and roll.
So I know I got to
Okay.
wrap this up.
No, you
So-
don't have to wrap it up. We
okay.
have 10 minutes.
No, okay. So, I mean, for those who might just be tuning in.
Oh, you mean go back, recap?
No, yeah, just to recap. But so we're talking about, we all have multitude of needs that could be physical, emotional, intellectual, whatever it is, and expecting one person, your spouse, to fulfill and to meet all of these needs is just damn near impossible.
I don't even like that word anymore.
What's that?
Needs?
Spouse.
Well, your
don't like
partner,
it, yeah.
your witness to your life.
It sounds like pig feet spouse. I don't like it. Go ahead.
The witness to your life, the person that you've chosen to,
Partner.
yes,
Yes.
your life partner, however
Correct.
you want to.
Actually, I think if people thought about it more in that
As
way,
your
it might
life
be
partner?
better. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. Because spouse,
That's
it almost
nice.
seems like on a kind of an ownership thing.
Spouse.
Yeah, spouse. How did that come?
Spouse.
I wonder where that word. Look that up, Rogan, please. Where that word come from? Do the
It's
Google
supposed-
on that.
It's anyway. So, okay, moving right along.
Yes, move along.
So, whatever value your partner brings to your life, right? Even if they're able to meet 50% of your needs, 50% of your needs on a semi-consistent basis.
So that's now
that's
a
a
quarter.
keeper.
Hey,
I think that's a
You
jackpot.
realize you're at a quarter because you're gone semi. If they could meet 50% of your names on a
Needs on a
semi-consistent basis,
semi-consistent-
so that's
Well,
already
no,
25%.
I mean, you come now.
I know what you're saying.
You
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
be, you know what I mean, consistent on a daily basis. You can drop off a day or two. I mean, come on. But you've hit the jackpot. The jackpot. You know what that is 50%. That's high, because see, what people don't realize is you yourself have to meet some of your needs, right? So you have you. There are some things that your partner, the needs that your partner meets. And then I'm sorry, yes, there are some needs that people, your friends or family or whomever, they meet as well. And they make up that 100. And if your partner makes up 50% of that,
The question,
that's very high.
the question remains then: would your partner
I
allow
know where
for
you're
you
going
to
with this.
meet
I
the
know
other
where you're going with
50%?
them.
For instance, if one likes to read. See, you didn't know where I was going.
Okay.
You see, you
Because
thought
I
was
wanted,
going
I need
there.
to put a disclaimer because I know
So
where
if
people's
one,
heads are
if
going.
one, if one say likes, what's that thing called? Base jumping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Will your partner allow you to base jump or to get a motorcycle because you want to be free on the freeway? Because half of that has to be if the life partner shouldn't be expected to provide the other 50%.
Right.
You should then be allowed
Yeah.
to deal with the other 50%. Is that right, Ms. Roger Smith?
Miss who?
Roger.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, right, but that would be a need that you meet for yourself. So if you have a need to, for high intensity type of activities, a thrill seeker, thank you.
Yes. Seeking is it.
Yes,
yeah.
that's your thing. And
My
your
thing.
partner can't, what they could do.
But that goes back to like even prior conversations that we've had where you had to be selective in who you choose as a partner because
Right.
if you're a thrill seeker, you should probably seek out somebody who's into those same thrills, who will understand your need for
Well,
that.
I was just going to say, not necessarily, or is a thrill seeker as well, but someone who understands that that is a need that needs to be fulfilled for you.
Yeah. But but people change. I mean, the reality is when you start out a relationship,
Right.
you
may not
only
have been a
discover
thrill
motorcycles
seeker. Right,
later on
exactly.
in life. You know what I mean, Kendrick? Gotcha.
But right, and
Got to bring him in. We had Osprey last week. He was verbal. We're now back to the mute.
right,
you know,
and that's
the
why
sign
it's
language.
important, for your partner to have the maturity and the awareness of these changes, and you are able to, go with it.
I'd be willing to bet, Candy, and this is not dealing specifically with this subject, but I'd be willing to bet that in the way that we discuss these things, and let's face it, a lot of radio shows and TV shows discuss these things, but the way that we discuss these things, hopefully, if it's only 1% or half of 1% who are listening, realize you can talk about these things because just talking about these things make it a little. Because what's also an interesting thing is people don't believe they can talk about it,
Right.
so they build up tension not talking about it. But when they talk about it, the person goes fine.
No, but that doesn't come from just anywhere, though. I mean, like, that's not something that they just harbor, a ridiculous thing that they harbor. A lot of times, their partners have shown that they can't have that conversation.
Well,
with
yeah,
them.
I mean those are those cases, but then sometimes that's self-inflicted as well. I mean, I know that for a fact that there's some things that are self-inflicted that you assume the other person might
have
be
a problem
open
with.
to, and you don't know
And then you
because
bring it up,
yeah,
and then
I mean,
it's like not a big
and that
deal.
goes just in even everything like at your work. You know how many times have you gone to a colleague or to your boss and you thought like, and then they go, well, fantastic, good idea.
Child, I don't do that.
Yeah, child. She gone to child.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got 2 children in the house.
If I did, for my
Yeah,
husband,
because
so I did the
that's right.
demo.
You had. So that's fine. Yeah, look at yeah.
I
All
did the
right,
demo.
we need to find some people who got 2 children in the house anyway.
Kendrick?
By the way,
So-
I want.
That's, you don't, you,
I,
you don't
I
mind
want to have.
campaigning
I
about
want to have.
you.
I want to. Anyway, we'll talk about that off the air. But let's wind this up. So
Right,
how do
so-
we get to this point of resolution where people can
Well, look.
essentially move away from that type of expectation?
Well, right. So, I mean, this is right of the conversation, especially those who are, diving into this lifelong partnership. It's you gotta. Here's a simple exercise. Kind of write down what you think your needs are, right? What needs you can fulfill yourself, what you need or what your partner can fulfill. And what others can fulfill. Now, I do have to say, because I know people are thinking it, right?
They're thinking what?
And I don't want to make.
What are they thinking?
I don't even know if I should bring
No,
it
don't
up
bring it
because
up.
nobody's talking
They
about
may
it.
not be thinking about
and
it.
they may not be thinking about it. And I
But
don't
only
even
that,
want to
even if
mention
they
it.
are thinking about it, it falls into
No,
the
don't worry.
overall
We'll talk
category.
about it on the video. So
She's talking about this young
See what
girl.
I did there? So stay tuned to the video.
Yeah. What are y'all-
On Thai Goat. We'll talk about it in more in depth on there.
All right.
All right.
All right. Well, listen, Candy, as usual. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you
thank
for
you.
bringing me the large water.
Which you just
What are you
not
gonna do with that
drinking
water?
any
The
of
plants?
it. No, but you didn't drink none
No,
of it.
I just poured
You can
some.
take my water.
Yeah, I just poured some.
Patty.
I already drank out the bottle.
That's all right from the cup, though.
Don't get back on that one.
Well, listen, thank you for coming.
Yeah, so
Goat.
Tide Goat on Facebook. We've got videos, new video coming out talking about this,
Very
particular
thing.
topic.
Okay.
So,
Farrell, right?
yes.
Y'all do a great job on that.
Thank you very much.
Well, listen, we have coming up. Thank you, Candy. We have coming up. You got Fred on the line? Okay, what's that? Okay, I don't know what that is. It's sign language. I'm used to. Just wrap it up. Okay, wrap it up, and then we'll put him on. I'm used to verbal, and I'm now back to the sign. Ed Fields here, along with Rogan Smith. Got to show a shout out to our sponsors: Heineken, Sunshine Insurance, Insurance, Arawak Homes, Woodlawn Gardens, Alternative Dispute Resolution, Bahamas, Wendy's, Coca-Cola, Roman Meal Bread, Superwash, Bristol Wines and Spirits, National Fencing and Scottdale Benning, Bahama Grill, Subway, Seafowl, and KFC. Yeah, and Island Luck, of course. Don't want to forget Island Luck. Listen, we got Fred on the line. Can we hear Fred? Fred, you there? I don't hear
May
Fred.
have gotten disconnected. No, he's still there.
Kendrick is going to work it out. He'll be there.
In the meantime,
We also have Paco Nunez. He's in studio. Was that Kendrick? Fred, you there? I don't hear him. You hear him, Kendrick? Okay, so maybe we got to have him call back if that's the problem. So we'll sort it out. Well, we're here. We're talking about the big issue that's been going on in the last couple of days, and that is with regard to parliamentary privilege. And I really wanted to get Fred in on this because, obviously, from a legal perspective, I want to get Fred to make sure that, because I want to understand, before we get into the specific issue, I want to talk about this whole concept of parliamentary privilege. Is Fred there yet? I don't hear him. I don't hear him at all.
Hello?
So, yeah, now we got you. You didn't hit the right button, Kendrick. You've been away too long. Fred, he forgot the buttons. Fred, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah, and you got Paco. You want to get it up higher, Paco? Okay.
right there.
Yeah, and you got, and of course Rogan's in it with us. This is our first telephone thing. Yeah, we haven't had a telephone interview
Well,
before.
With the hurricane.
There's always a first time, Ed.
With the who?
We did it with the hurricane thing in Long Island. We were talking to some folks.
I must not have been here. Was
yeah,
I
you
here?
were here. You
Oh,
were
okay.
sitting right there.
Okay. Yeah, well, Fred, listen. Fred, I don't know. You couldn't. You like Freeport, so you're there and we're here. But Fred, I want to talk to you. I for many, 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 many years have been disturbed about this issue, this concept of parliamentary privilege, and the reason I have been disturbed about it is because it seemed to me, and I don't know if it's happened before, that someone in the House of Assembly could get up and say anything about anyone, and that person had no recourse. Now, I don't care if they want to say anything about each other.
Yes.
Okay, they could be shouting across the floor or whatever, because they're now in the place. They can defend themselves there. Okay, I'm concerned about the citizen, and it seems to me, and I'd like you to give us a little bit of history if you can, that this thing comes from the days of where the king could lop off your head if you said something that he didn't like, and it seemed like this was some edict put in place to protect the lords or whomever against the masses. But then they could just kill him anyway, so it didn't matter. So tell us where this concept comes from, and how was it supposed to? How has it evolved, or is it still in its archaic form?
Okay. Well, thank you, Ed. Well, you're quite correct. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you're quite correct. I mean, as houses of assembly and parliament sort of evolved many, many, many centuries ago, seeking to take power away from kings and queens, a concept was developed that members of parliament, representatives of the barons, the lords, and eventually the people, should be able to speak their minds in parliament when they were conducting the business of the country. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they should not speak or self-edit or be fearful of speaking to issues, always looking over their shoulders in, the expectation that the king would be sending in his guards to seize them and, as you say, behead them because he didn't like what they said.
So what you're saying, Fred, is that this was firstly done to protect the newly formed scenario of a House of Commons from the king.
Correct.
It
and
seems
to ensure that when parliamentarians were debating the people's business, but let's all remember that the people was really only a few free barons at the top at the time, but eventually the people came to mean every adult citizen that could vote, that they would be entitled to speak freely. But parliamentary privilege was never designed to be a whipping horse to castigate and to just abuse people's constitutional rights. And in particular, this is the big historical distinction between the House of Parliament in the United Kingdom and Houses of Parliament almost everywhere in the rest of the British Commonwealth. So as many people may know, in England, even though they gave birth to the Westminster model of governance, in India, in Canada, even in the United States, in all 50-plus states, in Australia, the Bahamas, Jamaica,
Africa,
Trinidad, Barbados, everywhere, most of all of the places I just named have written constitutions. And in those written constitutions, there is a section devoted completely to human rights and fundamental rights and freedoms. And in different constitutions, freedom of expression and the right to privacy of every person, to their correspondence and their mail and their property and their belongings and their home. The Englishman's home is his castle. The concept of privacy is in many of these different British Commonwealth jurisdictions protected.
And your constitutional right trumps parliamentary privilege.
Correct. So in the Bahamas, every person has a constitutional fundamental right to privacy of their correspondence.
So go ahead.
And so the challenge that was brought against the members of Parliament was not to try and diminish parliamentary privilege and their right to speak freely about the business of the country in Parliament. It was a challenge to them abusing parliamentary privilege and
but let me
going overboard and overstepping their boundaries.
Right. So let me synopsize this, Fred, from a layman's perspective. First of all and foremost, parliamentary privilege was designed to protect the Parliament, a newly formed system of government that existed in a monarchy, from the monarch.
Correct.
That in the monarchy itself, from which this privilege emanated, they didn't have a constitution that overrode anything. That in our system, we have a constitution that overrides everything, and we know about that. The most recent scenario. In fact, people say, well, why can't you just pass a law to rectify the constitutional flaw about equal rights? Well, you can't, because that law cannot override the Constitution.
Right, exactly.
But let me just add something to your synopsis. That was a good synopsis there.
Okay.
Say this. Even in England, where they don't have a written constitution, over the last 30 or 40 decades, 30, 40 years,
right,
the English High Court, the Supreme Court, the House of Lords, has cut down this whole idea of parliamentary privilege and basically has said to Parliament in England that even though you have parliamentary privilege, you are not a law unto yourself.
Right.
And you can't commit a crime in Parliament and think that you can get away scot-free with it.
Well, see,
and there was a very recent case called Chator, which Justice Indra Charles relied upon, and of course we relied upon as well in arguing the case, but just a few years ago, in which there was this whole corrupt process and stealing by members of Parliament from their the allowances, and when Scotland Yard investigated and sought to prosecute them, they all ran to the Speaker, who took out a case to try and get an injunction to restrain them from being prosecuted. And they argued parliamentary privilege. And what the House of Lords ruled was that, fellas, take a chill pill. You can't expect in this day and age to be doing things illegally, and in our case in the Bahamas, unconstitutional and breaching people's right to privacy, and think you can get away scot-free with it by saying, oh, it's parliamentary privilege. I get to say whatever I want and abuse whoever I want and commit whatever crime I want to.
So the question,
what
yes.
Fred Mitchell and Fitzgerald and the others did in Parliament was they committed not a criminal crime. Nobody accused Miss Fitzgerald of committing a crime. He keeps whining about this in Parliament and outside. We said that he committed a constitutional breach. Mm-hmm. Save the Bays and Mr. Zachary Bacon III has a constitutional right to the protection of the privacy of their correspondence. And he abused that, and that's all the judge ruled. She reduced not one iota this idea of parliamentary privilege. So Greg Moss and Fred Mitchell and Fitzgerald and all the rest of them jumping up and down and thumping on their desks today, making a lot of noise. That's just grandstanding for the public. And you know something? The public is not with them. The public don't appreciate them beating down on people when they do that.
Well, here's the thing I want to ask you, Fred, and then we're going to bring Paco into this as well, is I'm interested to find out, because it seemed to me, from what I was reading, that, oh, my goodness me, we're setting precedent here. You're telling me that there's already precedent where this thing was challenged. And I want to
over the place.
And I want to add one other thing that I find interesting. And again, this is not, to me, I'm not involved in any kind of, political nuanced debate. What I'm interested to think about is this. We as a people abhor the vestiges of old England. Mm-hmm. Okay? We don't want the wig. We don't want the awards. There's a whole bunch of things we don't want. But when it comes to this one thing, it seems like, oh, okay, well, but that's us, so we want it. Yeah. No, so that's what throws it off. Yeah, but what amazes me, I don't know, and I'm sure you and Paco have been on other shows, is what amazes me is for the first time I'm learning that this has actually already been challenged. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, this is, Ed, this is Justice Charles referred to and relied on many, many cases from the rest of the British Commonwealth where the issue of the separation of powers, parliamentary privilege, and things like that have been delved into by very, very deeply by everybody, for and against, and repeatedly judges at the Supreme Court levels, Court of Appeal levels, Privy Council, House of Lords have repeatedly said, yes, we recognize it's important to have parliamentary privilege in a democracy for MPs to speak their mind, but you can't go overboard. There are limits.
Mr. Smith.
Nothing is black and white in a constitutional democracy.
Mr. Smith.
Even your freedom of expression can be restricted in the public interest where it's appropriate.
Mr. Smith.
So MPs, Fred Moss and Fred Mitchell and Fitzgerald and them are not above the law. That's the simple message that this case is sending.
Yeah,
no one is above the law.
Yeah, but they said that Justice Charles can't enforce this ruling, so they're going to ignore it. So can they continue to talk about this?
No. You see, that is very irresponsible of them. And on a serious and calm note, I urge my fellow colleagues, because all those fellows are lawyers, please, gentlemen, as officers of the court, I know you're politicians as well, but remember that we are giving birth. We're only 40 or 50 years old as a nascent democracy. Let's give the construct of our democratic institutions an opportunity to grow. Let's be respectful to the construct of a Supreme Court being the arbiter and the decider of civil disputes between people. This matter has been dealt. The Attorney General had 9 lawyers. They brought Dr. Lloyd Barnett from the Caribbean, a very eminent jurist, to come and argue this case. Now they've appealed it. And of course, it's going to go to the Privy Council.
Right.
So everybody take a chill pill. Stop pretending as if people's rights to freedom of expression are being taken away in Parliament, and let the judges, who under the Constitution are supposed to decide these issues, deliberate on it. Put your best foot forward. I mean, even the Speaker of the House, they can hire an attorney and file an amicus and argue it in the Court of Appeal. The Bar Association can join if they want. Greg Moss and his political party can file an amicus if they want. The Court of Appeal, I'm sure, would be happy to hear from everybody concerned as amicus.
But aren't they in a scenario? Aren't they in a scenario now, Fred, where once the decision was made and an appeal was filed, there was essentially a stay of the ruling, and hence you go on as you go on until it goes to the next level. Correct.
That's
so I think
correct.
it's not a matter of so much they're not enforcing it. It's not at this point. There's still a status quo essentially because it's been stayed.
Well, that's what the judge said. The judge said, in the meantime, don't dispose any more of Save the Bay's emails, and in the meantime, Save the Bays, you can't force Fitzgerald and the government to pay $150,000. And in the meantime, they don't have to destroy what they have because it's going to appeal. So there's no crisis.
Yeah.
There's no reason to jump up and down on your tables in Parliament and behave like Atlanta hooligans in the park.
So, Paco, no. So I want to. A lot of us, including myself, really haven't been following this to the extent that those who would be expressly interested stakeholders of it. I know the general tenor, and that is that there is a dispute between two Lyford Key residents with regard to some dredging or some land acquisition, etc., and that as a result of that, it seems on surface that government is favoring one side versus the other. I mean, that's what it's all about in court. It's sides, and that as a result of that, in an attempt to discredit, I mean, use very benign words, to discredit the position of the Save the Bays, these emails were read in an attempt to show the motivation, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Now, first of all, what was said, and I really haven't been that. What was said, was it in itself, Paco, something that was libelous or destroy a reputational issue, and of course the issue of privacy itself. So there are two issues.
Indeed, okay. And you have to. I do believe that I agree with Fred. You have to give parliamentarians their latitude under parliamentary privilege to investigate things and discuss things that are important to the country. Right. But let me put it this way. Had they said what they said outside, which is probably why they've never repeated it outside, it was definitely libelous and defamatory on the basis of 3 emails that they read out that were totally benign. They accused directors of Save the Bays of being basically seditionists to who want to destabilize and overthrow the government, which obviously is ridiculous, based first of all on our platform and agenda, which has nothing to do with that, and secondly on the fact that the emails had contained nothing. Fitzgerald was told by the Speaker to submit what he had and table it, and he did, and there's nothing in it that's even remotely connected to what they said. So yes, on the one hand, you do have the issue of privacy, and the other, you have the issue of what would have been defamation outside of the House of Assembly.
Can I pause there for a minute, Paco, just to mention that even the Speaker subsequently passed made a ruling that Fitzgerald was not allowed to table or read any more emails in Parliament because it was abusive towards Save the Bays. So even the Speaker recognized that he'd gone overboard.
See, and I suppose one of the tests of these things, you referred to it again, and I think it's very important, and this is why we try to do these type of things on the show, is to not get into the emotional side as much as the principle of the matter, right? So if Kendrick Williams had gotten an email of mine and read it in the town square without my permission, would he be subject to the precincts, Fred and Paco, of the data commissioner because I didn't give him permission to do so?
Yes, he would. He would. Someone who illegally or without your consent access your private correspondence, including emails, would be subject to potential criminal sanctions by you bringing prosecution or by the data commissioner, or if that person was a member of the government, would be subject to constitutional action.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's the Constitution, thankfully, gives everyone a right to privacy.
I mean, that even goes back to just the post office. That goes back. I used to work in a post office in the United States, right? And I showed up a couple of times late to collect the mail to put in the box, and I was fired. Why? Because you're not even allowed to. So some diner clerk had to receive the mail. That was a crime in itself, just the transference of the mail. So what you're saying is, if someone were to go to the post office and get access to the post office, to my box, and open up a letter and read it publicly, or otherwise for that matter, that person actually is invading my privacy, is he not?
Ed, you hit the nail on the head. We argued that very point before Justice Charles, and we produced a case on the law of tort by government interfering with people's private correspondence before the times of emails, internet. And the court held that opening someone's, if the policeman opened someone's letter and read it, that was an interference with the confidentiality and privacy of their correspondence.
Look here, man. How much money you make, man? How much money you make? I come up with that just off the blue. How much money you make, man?
Mr. Fitzgerald get in possession of the emails? I don't remember hearing how he got them.
They never gave any. Go ahead, Paco.
He got them. At first he said that he wouldn't say. He just said that he got them by legal means, but he didn't want to say. He later said that he found them in his political garbage can, which, I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday, and he now says that he didn't do anything. He's sure he didn't get them illegally. But at the time, he said he just found them there, like, when someone puts something under your doorstep.
I mean, that could be the case.
But in which case, if that person stole them, though, he is receiving illegal, stolen goods.
Yeah.
So he's not actually in a position, by his own admission, to say he doesn't have those things illegally.
And if they're inaccurate and you're reading them on the house floor.
Again, if they're
that's
inaccurate. Also, what else is in there? If I sent some emails to my girlfriend, and this person, whoever it is who gave these to Fitzgerald, is all up in my personal business. It had nothing to do with whatever he wants to construe about Save the Bays, which is all nonsense. But anyway,
well, first of all, I would assume,
terrifying.
I would assume, I could be wrong on this. I would assume that, from what I understand, that most of these emails were benign, and so that they were on some kind of masked. Hold on. So they were on a broadcast list, maybe. So anyone could have given them. But the point is, you still don't have a right to read it. See, that's the point.
Correct.
But something was very scary. Something was very scary. In amongst those that he tabled, and it might have been by mistake because they were asking him to do it, was an email that only had Fred, I, and two other people on it. Right. To do with the Grand Bahama Human Rights Association.
You trust Fred?
And migration. He's a lawyer, so I can't really trust him like that. But that is frightening, because when we thought the same thing, we thought, okay, someone on this email list is given. Yeah. But there's one there that there's no chance that anyone in Save the Bays, except for Fred or I, had nothing to do with Save the Bays. How did that email get into that list of emails?
But can I say something that's very alarming about the debate that has arisen after the judgment was delivered last week? Now, the members of Parliament, and in particular Fitzgerald and Mitchell, are saying that they did nothing wrong. They don't know how the judge came to the conclusion. She had no evidence. She couldn't have come to that conclusion, etc. Well, it was a 5-day trial. And Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Fitzgerald, and no member of government gave any evidence of who gave them the emails, how they got the emails, what emails they had, when they received them, how they received them. No explanation whatsoever.
So I'm going to put on my...
Having had an opportunity at trial to defend themselves and to justify their actions and to say that we did it lawfully, they failed to do so.
So let me put on my legal translator hat again. What you're saying is that the basis of the fact that they have an email without some sort of evidence of permission being given them is, in fact, the breach.
Correct. The fact that you have my private email in and of itself, you see, the government tried to argue that it wasn't the same as a letter in the post office. Because a letter in the post, this is the perverse argument they put forward. A letter in the post office is sealed in an envelope. So it remains private as it's going through the post office. However, we all know that there's a big internet cloud out there.
Right.
So the moment anyone presses send in an email, they must assume that anybody can access this email now and it's no longer private.
So is this why? Let's go. Let me give you an example.
Have you ever heard any such nonsense?
But let
in your
me
life?
ask you a question. WikiLeaks. I want to ask this question. WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks seems to get information from people, and is why this guy is in isolation and a refugee? Is because essentially he's obtaining material that he cannot prove that he got permission from the people who are involved, that he didn't get permission from them.
Correct. And he's being hounded, he's being pursued by criminal investigators and governments and countries and people from all over the world. That's why, as you say, he's in hiding, basically. Go on, Paco. Sorry.
In fact, I think he actually has admitted that, I got him like this, which was not lawful. He's not. But his argument is this. And there's a fundamental and very important difference between the two cases. Not defending WikiLeaks, I'm just saying this is very important. Always when these things have happened in the past, it has been the guy who's done it has said, well, I'm doing this in the public interest. I'm a whistleblower because I'm showing that the government, which is the representative of the people, is doing something that's harming the people's interest. This got to be the first time in the world. And, we've spoken to, there's interest from the Financial Times, The Economist, all kind of people about this story. Because it's got to be the first time in the world where it's not the little citizen getting the government's information, so he says, in the interest of the public. It's the government stealing the citizens' information to use it against the little
like
man.
KGB type action.
It's a reverse WikiLeaks. Yeah. And that's terrifying.
It's WikiStrongs.
Yeah, it's WikiStrongs.
but can I add something to that, please?
Yeah.
If you see, a very entertaining and captivating story was woven by Mr. Fitzgerald in Parliament after Louis Bacon, Fred Smith, Reverend C.B. Moss, Romy Ferreira, Joe Darville, after we sued Peter Nygard and Claude Smith for a hate and a harassment campaign that had been going on for years, the government attacked us in Parliament about our emails. So first of all, what did the government have to do with defending Peter Nygard, who we sued?
Good point.
Secondly, why was the government in possession of our emails? And thirdly, when you look at the emails that they wove this whole story about us being money launderers and seditionists and people seeking to destabilize the government, et cetera, they really got the whole nation's attention. When you look at the emails, the first email, Ed, was about a draft letter, which I was circulating, as you said, to a bunch of people internally, complaining to the Commissioner of Police about the hate and harassment campaign and asking him to take action. The second email was to Sarah Kirkby and the rest of the PR team, in which I was commenting on a proposed advertisement about the issues at Nygard Key. Now, those were even though Mitchell and Miller and all the rest of them said all kinds of things about us, when they were ordered to table the emails before to the speaker, they had a whole stack of emails, and they only tabled a few of them. Those are the only two they tabled, other than the Human Rights Association one, which Paco referred to. So if those are the only emails they had, why was the whole nation being held hostage and the taxpayers' money being spent for days in Parliament vilifying Save the Days and its directors and employees?
Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask if the courts could not demand that the rest of the emails be tabled, and so that listen, we're here about information. We're not here to pick sides. I'm here to find out about something I abhor, which is parliamentary privilege. Could never believe that people could just say anything and I couldn't sue. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith. And Paco Nunez is in studio, and Fred Smith is on our live line. I wanna read something that I wrote. I don't ever do this, but I'm going to read this. And the heading, this was on my post, or whatever you call it. What do you call it?
Your Facebook post.
Okay. And I wrote this, and by the way, I've been saying this. The reason why I was able to write this is because I've been saying this for the last 20 years, okay? And I'm going to read this. Hopefully I won't take too long. This was the heading. Parliamentary privilege is just damned wrong. Scratch that. Just damned cowardly. If members of Parliament wish to say things about each other in the House of Assembly without fear of a lawsuit, that's just dandy. At the very least, they can get up and defend themselves instantly. However, the servants of the people, you are ordered to leave your employers out of your spats. Until this ridiculous, anachronistic anomaly is removed from amongst our democracy, you are not allowed to do it again. If you do, civil society will band together for the purpose of removing you from the people's payroll. Let us not forget Watergate, where even the President of the United States felt the repercussions of spying on citizens even as they sought to seek to unseat him. Having said all of the above, I yearn for one democratic covenant to be restored, that those given the privilege to serve on all sides to be aware that they're charged to represent the will of the people. There is no constitutional reference to sustaining their place through the invasion and exploitation of the privacy of the citizen. I yearn for the day when someone can challenge this privilege to the Privy Council, or some progressive leader will catalyze its removal as one of the last vestiges of the Lord-serf dichotomy. And the only thing I can say I was wrong there was actually the Lord-King dichotomy. Mm-hmm. But Fred, you see, I've been preaching this long ago.
So, Ed.
Yes, sir.
Can I safely say in public that I have satiated your yearning?
But I get no money. I need some money. Anyway, no, but listen, in all.
That was very well said. That was very well said 20 years ago. My goodness.
Well, see, here's the thing. It's basic. You know, what has happened is, I think, is that, and again, I want my good friend, Mr. Mitchell, my good friend, Mr. Fitzgerald, to if they're listening, to hear what I'm saying. This is not about the issue to me. Not to me. Of course, to you it is. It is about the principle. Okay? And I'm glad, and obviously some issue had to come up, Fred and Paco, for the principle to be challenged. And you notice I stayed in there, and you've counted by saying you've satiated my yearning, that I yearn for the day. I yearn for the day when this would come, because it had to come. What has not happened in the last 20, 30, 43 years is this has not yet been catalyzed by this type of action. It was always about them calling each other names, etc.
Actually, Ed.
Yes, sir.
About 25 years ago,
I was only 10
did
then.
Come up in the Bahamas.
Yeah, I was only 10 then, Fred. I don't know.
No, it came up in the Bahamas when Mike Lightbourne, Richard Lightbourne, the current member of Parliament's brother, read a number of dispatches in Parliament that showed that a member of government had been, or alleged corruption on the part of the member of government. And Mr. Paul Laverty was then the Attorney General and demanded production of them. He refused to provide them on the grounds that it was he was in Parliament and it was privileged. He didn't have to give them to anybody. The Attorney General sued Mr. Lightbourne. He was represented by Keith Duncombe at the Future and Turnquest at the time. And Justice Vivian Blake ruled that parliamentary privilege trumped the Bribery and Prevention of Corruption Act trumped parliamentary privilege, and a member of Parliament could not keep from the Attorney General evidence that they had of corruption.
So there's precedent
even if they
here.
led it in Parliament.
So there's precedent here.
In the Bahamas. and I have to take my hat off to Maurice Clinton and others who about 10 years ago won the case, the Bahamas Methodist Church case, in which, again, the Privy Council, not just Supreme Court or Court of Appeal, held that the Constitution of the Bahamas is the supreme law of the land, and all other subordinate legislation must give way to it. And the Privileges and Powers Protection Act, which the government is relying on, and they're all carrying on so bad about in Parliament, is subordinate legislation. It's not even part of the Constitution.
So what's interesting about that, sir, satiator of my yearnings, is that on a purely non-political, or let me rephrase that, looking at it from a political sphere or a political view, this was done on both sides. In theory, okay, if you assume they assume that you're opposed to them politically, the reality is this also happened when persons that you may have a political, and I'm just using this facetiously, but a political leaning toward, they were charged with this very same scenario.
Paul Adderley was the chairman of the government when it was a PLP government decades ago, and he sued. I think Mike Lightman was in the BDP, or I'm not sure what's the
one of them P's. One of those P's.
Yeah. And the government won. And so when Save the Bays launched its action on this occasion, we felt very comforted by the fact that there was already precedent in the Bahamas that the Parliamentary Privileges Act gave way to a number of other pieces of legislation.
So the Court of Appeal,
we weren't reinventing the wheel here. This is, I like to take the benefit for this, the credit for it, but I did nothing more than follow in the footsteps of Paul Adderley, Maurice Clinton, and others.
So the Court of Appeal and the Privy Council, well, I mean, it'll be like 10, 15 minutes. I mean, there's precedent. They have a roadmap to this.
They do.
So the question arises, Ed, why are they wasting the public's money to continue this thing along?
Well, I'll say one thing, Paco. Maybe, as Fred Smith put it earlier, in terms of the youth of our democracy, maybe these are the kind of tests that the democracy must have.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Because
I'm in favor of it moving forward. I want it to go all the way to the Privy Council. I'm just wondering what they're thinking, because they know they must have read the judgment by now. They know that what the judge relied on. All of these cases we're talking about are all in there. So,
Well,
the same thing that Mike...
Ed, I am all for the development of jurisprudence so that the democracy can put flesh and muscle on, the bones of a constitutional body.
Mm-hmm.
However, the government should really pick its fights better. Let us assume that on some technicality, the government wins the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that prove? What is it really going to allow the government to say? It's going to be able to boast internationally that the government can unconstitutionally seize the private emails, that the government can unconstitutionally expose them in public and in Parliament, that the government cannot be held accountable even though it was behaving illegally, because members of Parliament are protected by privilege and are therefore above the law. And the last thing they're going to be able to boast about, because Fred Mitchell and Jerome Fitzgerald are now encouraging the Committee on Contempt, the Parliamentary Privileges Committee, to continue to pursue the judge, myself, and Ferran Bethel, the other lawyer for Save the Bays, for contempt of the House of Parliament. Do they really want to be able to boast internationally that they were able to put a judge and lawyers in jail for having the audacity and the temerity to challenge members of Parliament?
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? This is a legal question, and I don't want to be charged. The clock is not ticking. What does it take to be held in contempt?
In Parliament?
No. What did you do? What did you do? Because you questioned them.
They are alleging the members of Parliament and the Speaker and the entire the members who voted it are suggesting that because we are in fact challenging their right to a freedom of expression, and we are seeking to restrain them by having applied for an injunction and the court having the audacity to issue the injunction, we are in contempt of the highest court of the land, which they claim to be.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? In theory, so in an injunction, I'm asking legal stuff here. I don't know that stuff. That's why I don't get any money.
Yeah.
In an injunction, many people can sign on to the injunction.
What do you mean?
Like, in other words, when you said that you filed an injunction to whatever that they were as a result held you in contempt for.
Yeah.
Right. An injunction was filed, and on that injunction, several people are noted as the people filing the injunction. Correct, or applying for the injunction.
Yeah, it's the people who sued, the plaintiffs. Yeah.
Right. So why don't you just get a whole bunch of people to sign on to that, and then everyone is in contempt. So you don't know how to wig this thing, Fred.
That's correct.
Okay, get a whole bunch of people, just like how there's a petition. Just get a whole bunch of people to sign on to that injunction, and then everyone got to go to the committee meeting or whatever.
Yeah, but then you'll have days of technical argument that the people who there are very strict rules of procedure about having an interest.
You can't have a class. You can't have a class action injunction.
No, there are no class actions in the Bahamas. There are no jury trials. There's no legal aid. There's no punitive damages for. We unfortunately. Let me get started. That's all.
Okay, yeah. So you can't just a challenge is you'd have to apply for an injunction. I can't just say, "Well, I challenge that." And then
you have to have a legal interest in it.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that the government argued in this case. They tried to get the case dismissed on a technicality, saying that we had no legal interest to make this challenge because the emails were not private because they floated through the internet.
Well, then if you had no legal interest, how could they say that you're in contempt?
No,
at the same time.
By seeking to do it and getting the judge to make the order, we were restricting them from exercising their freedom of expression.
By having the audacity to even question
Correct.
if they could read our emails.
Well, as I say, I have, like I say, we try to do some things here as fairly and as generically and as openly and, apolitically as possible. This, to me, is not a political issue. This is one of our rights. The same way that we fought for rights in terms of gender equality. This is how I see this. I don't see this as any kind of either side. And I'm happy that I learned today, because that's what I'm happy that our listeners learned, that indeed this happened before. Yeah. When a PLP government sued or made, I guess, they filed an injunction, I don't know, against Michael Lightbourne, who was in opposition, for the same basic case.
And they won.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
So what's good for the PLP goose is good for the Fred Smith and Save the Bay's gander.
Yeah, well, I don't know what a gander is, but anyway, I know what a goose is. Listen, we got to run, Fred Smith and Paco Nunez. It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah.
This is what we want. I get very antsy about when we get into the little specific political meanderings. More concerned about the principle of the thing. And I'm glad that both you and Fred have very clearly enunciated or explained what the issue of with respect to both parliamentary privilege and both with respect to this particular issue. Of course, without a fee charged by me, using me as the people's translator. Thank you very much, Fred. Thank you very much, Paco.
Thank you very much, Ed. Rogan. Appreciate it.
Rogan, Kendrick, we'll see you on Monday. I forget who our guest is, but we'll tell you then.